Hi, Jamie with UK Extension. It's August. Forgive the cows in the background. They're still hungry. Today we're in the perennial garden and we're talking about hibiscus. Very few people think about the late summer as being a great time for perennials, but there are some truly wonderful perennials for the late season garden. Hibiscus is one of them. A lot of the more recent developments in the swamp mallow, or there's other names for it, there's been a lot of breeding in recent years that have made a lot of advancements or improvements, if you will. This is a variety called, oh, I hope I don't get this wrong. I believe this is Starry Night, and there are so many new ones, I can't keep up with them all. This is a beautiful white with a red eye. You'll also notice a feature that's happening on a lot of the newer introductions are these wonderful dark black leaves that give you a really strong contrast, particularly against a white cultivar like this. So a little bit about hibiscus and how they grow. They would naturally, since the name is swamp mallow, they would be denizens of wet, swampy areas. Surprisingly, they're also extremely drought tolerant. However, since our droughts normally occur in summer when they are blooming, be aware that if you're not providing some supplemental water, they will not be pretty and bloom as much unless they get some moisture. But they can persist and the plants survive the direst of conditions once they are established. What's happened in recent years, and a lot of this goes way back to the early work of the Fleming brothers, who did a lot of early work in hibiscus breeding, and they started bringing forth some of the dark leaf features and some of this, and then in recent years people really expanded on that. So here is one. I'm going to take you a little tour, but before we do, full sun plants. They are happiest in fairly good soils. Think about floodplains, river bottoms, creekside. That's where they would naturally grow in good sunlight. Originally these were very, very tall. There are several species that went into these hybrids, and now we've got much more compact plants in the 4 to 5 foot range. This is one of the shorter ones that I grow. Many of them will reach 5-6 feet if you allow them, but it's very easy to chop them down in the spring, and subsequently you can take those new shoots and grow more plants as long as it's not a patented variety. So very easy to propagate, lots of new varieties. I would encourage you to consider it. There's not a tremendous amount of pest pressure. Japanese beetles can be a problem in some years. They don't destroy the plant, they can just wreck the flowers for a little bit, but because we now also have extended bud counts and the flowers continue to, they set less seed, which means they produce more flowers. So this will keep blooming for many years, or many months, I'm sorry, if it's kept watered. However, the Japanese beetle damage occurs early in that season, and often my plants recover nicely and I get nice blooms later in the season. So swamp mallow or perennial hibiscus, consider it for your garden. We're going to take a little stroll and show you some more colors and varieties. This is Midnight Marvel, which is widely available. It's a newer introduction in a beautiful deep red. We're kind of overexposed here, so it may look a little more red than it really is. It's kind of a wine red color. And also features the dark foliage, extended bloom count, and gets about 4 to 5 feet tall. I don't know the name of this. It probably goes back to something primitive or something that's been passed along. This one comes true from seed, and it was shared with me many years ago by my dear friend Catherine Hahn, who had moved this with her husband Raymond to the Lexington area when they moved up from eastern Kentucky. This is a really fun cultivar called Plum Passion that I've grown for a number of years. It has a very crepey, ruffled texture that some of the others don't, so you see all the near seersuckering and stuff, and it's this beautiful shade of, I don't even know what you call that, somewhere between rose and red. And in the background behind that, this is Mocha Moon, which is another compact dwarf cultivar with a pale pink bloom and a dark center. This is a really compact variety from several years back that's a seed-grown strain that was popular about 20 years ago. This is the Luna series. This particular one's Luna Blush. There's also a red and I believe a white in this series. This is either a straight species or barely removed. A lot of the species swamp mallows and some of the older cultivars do produce more seeds, and these just came up from seedlings, so they could be crossed. But a trait of the native ones is that they have simpler leaves, as do some of the cultivars. So, but you see how plain this leaf is as opposed to the really jagged maple-like foliage of the other types. Here's a real pretty newer cultivar called Tie-Dye. It has greener maple-like leaves, but this wonderful kind of bullseye pattern of pink, white, red in the center. This is one of my all-time favorites. Green, plainer foliage, but these big, huge, ruffled, I guess maybe rose pink or very hot fuchsia pink blooms. This is Jazzberry Jam. It's not easy to find things that flower in the month of August. So right now my garden is largely native ironweed, these hibiscus, and a lot of crepe myrtles, but all of the strong reds, pinks, whites, and purples of all of that really do make a nice combination for August.